Today we are breaking down both of Tampa Bay's rookie offensive linemen in the preseason. I was originally just going to do Graham Barton, but Elijah Klein actually had a solid performance, so I figured I'd group both of them together. But we're going to start with Barton, the first round pick, and I've watched every snap of every first round rookie from week 1 of the preseason, and I think Graham Barton had the best performance of anyone. You could argue one of the quarterbacks, Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, but I thought it was pretty much flawless tape what he showed in week 1. He had an 85.2 PFF grade, didn't allow a pressure, and really didn't have any negative reps on tape. And the first thing we got to break down is the run game. He had 2 or 3 highlight blocks on just 7 run blocking snaps. This first play, the Bucs are running outside zone, so Barton has a climb to the weak side linebacker. He's fluid in open space, connects to the block, drives him on his back. Sean Tucker has a wide open lane through the C gap. This is one of the main things Graham Barton brings to the table. He's an elite athlete, had a 100th percentile 10-yard split at 168. I do my own athletic scores that weights each drill differently for each position, and I had Graham Barton with the highest athletic score of anyone in this draft class. But for someone that has a lot of finesse and zone blocking ability, he has excellent drive power. He can really move people off the line of scrimmage. This play in the red zone, along with Cody Mock, he's able to move this 2-eye several yards out of his gap and put him on the ground. Ben Bredesen climbs to the mic, and Bucky Irving has space to cut back into the end zone. And only 18 snaps, so not a ton to break down, but like I said, didn't allow a single pressure. I thought in pass pro, he showed the hand usage and slide quickness that should make him a quality day 1 starter. He has very consistent inside hand placement. A lot of his losses at Duke really just came back to him not having the length to play tackle. Moving inside, there's a lot more narrow of a cylinder that you're being forced to cover, so I think that should be a clean transition, but he still has some of the best range that you'll find for an interior offensive lineman. You see that on this play. The Bengals have 2 linebackers mugged up in the A gap. They loop one of the linebackers, number 50, across 2 or 3 gaps, and Barton's able to mirror him from center to right tackle with no problem. So A+ first start for Graham Barton. Second half of the video, we're going to look at Elijah Klein, who was the Bucs' 6th round pick out of UTEP. He played 64 snaps in week 1, so a good amount of tape to go over. Actually played 40 at right guard, 24 at left guard, which is difficult to play 2 positions. He's one of just a handful of players in this class that got drafted that I didn't watch, so I was excited to check him out in the preseason. He had an 84.4 PFF grade, 84 as a run blocker, did allow 1 pressure, and had a couple other losses or almost losses in pass pro. I thought it was a solid performance overall, and since this is my first time watching him, I'm not going to take away any major conclusions from 1 preseason start, but I would probably say he's more of a backup developmental player in year 1 and then maybe a potential starter down the road. He's an average athlete, good length, weighed in at 306 at his pro day, but he's listed at 319, and I think he looks closer to 319 on film. And the main thing that really grabbed my attention with Elijah Klein was his power in the run game. This play, they're running a split zone. He's working this double team with Luke Haggard on the 3-tech, but you get a run blitz from the linebacker, so he disengages from the combo, washes him out of the play. Great cohesion here from right guard and right tackle, and Sean Tucker has a wide open runway. If Klein can develop into a starter opposite of Cody Mock, I like how their skill sets kind of blend together. Mock really struggled with power in his rookie year. Hopefully that improves, but I still think he's more of a finesse zone blocker. Having a player that you can just run duo behind and put a dent in his side of the line of scrimmage, I think is really valuable. Nothing else quite on that level in the run game. This is a nice block on the backside of duo to get shaded over on the play side of the 2-eye and then fold him into the ground. And then good job here on the front side of wide zone. Doesn't get a clean win, but connects to the block, does a decent job sustaining it. But I do kind of wonder about the redirection ability and fluidity in open space. You see this play later in the game. He's on the backside of outside zone, climbs to the linebacker, he backdoors the block, and Klein just can't sink his hips and mirror him down the field. In pass pro, you know, it's really hard to evaluate the preseason, and especially the second half of preseason games. You just aren't getting high quality pass rushing reps that are anything like what you're going to see in live action in the NFL. But considering the level he played at in college, this is still the best competition that he's ever faced, so it is worth evaluating. I thought his awareness in pass pro was excellent. I thought his mirror ability was solid, and when he's accurate with his hands, he's got the play strength and powerful punch, I think, to have some potential as a pass blocker. This play, he's able to mirror Zach Carter into the A gap and then set his anchor when he gets into what he calls a bull rush. We broke down this play for Barton, but good job by Klein here against the 3-tech. He protects his edge through the B gap. He lets the rusher get hands inside, but does a great job of refitting his hands here. When you're in this position where a rusher's established establish contact, but you don't have any kind of firm grip inside their jersey, you've got to refit your hand so that you can set your anchor. Klein does a great job here of first latching on with the outside hand and then refitting with the inside hand. You see how he's repositioning this right hand? You never want to refit both hands at the same time. You always want to stay connected with at least one point of contact. So he gets the left hand inside to resist the bull rush, refits with the right hand, gets it underneath and inside, and then drops his anchor. Good job here passing off this TE stunt. He stays level with his right tackle, disrupts the angle of the penetrator, meaning the first player to go on a stunt, and then picks up the looper, slides with him back across the line of scrimmage. Also a nice job on this play of looking for work. He isn't getting rushed, but Justin School's getting opened up through the B gap. He slides over, flushes him away from the pocket. Now, as we get into some of the negatives in pass pro, we're going to start with a rep that he actually won, but I think the technique and execution could be better. The 3-tech hits him with a bull rush, and his hand usage and strike timing isn't great here, but he's still able to find his anchor deeper in the pocket and at least give Wolford time to get rid of the ball. If we look at 73's body language to start out this rep, he's kind of swinging his arms initially, but with how much forward lean there is, there's really no question that he's going bull rush the entire way. Klein's trying to flash his hand, bait out a move, win with a more passive strategy. That's okay if the rusher stands up right off the snap and starts to look like he's going to get into a cross chop or something, but with the rusher leaning forward at a 45-degree angle, you've got to be a lot more proactive and aggressive with your punch to establish inside hand placement. 73 gets his hands inside. He's got the leverage advantage. Klein has to bear hug him and take 3 deep hop steps to eventually find his anchor. On the one hand, this is a good example of his play strength, but if he actually gets put in a regular season game, he's going to be going up against better 3 techniques than Carlos Hill. If this is Quinnen Williams or even like William Golston, you know, he's probably going to walk him back an extra yard and get a pressure at least. And on this play, you see the late punch actually play out into more of a definitive loss. It doesn't actually result in a pressure because Kyle Trask was getting rid of the ball so quickly, but he's too soft with this inside hand punch. Zach Carter establishes first contact. He's playing lower than Elijah Klein, so he just drives his legs, walks him back with a long arm, and opens up the inside shoulder. This play is an example of how you kind of got to pick if you're going to be passive or aggressive. Unless you're clearly getting a bull rush right off the snap, it's okay to flash your hands and try to get the rusher off rhythm before you land your punch. You can also be aggressive with a 2-hand punch and try to establish contact and end the rep early. This rep is kind of the halfway point where he's getting all of the negatives and none of the benefits from both methods. He kind of looks like he's trying to play with independent hands, but he doesn't end up retreating and protecting himself. He's got his hands up and active, but he doesn't end up striking with any force. It really just ends up being a gradual 2-hand punch that's too soft to cause any damage, and it's slow developing enough that the 3-tech can catch him by the wrists, use what's called a forklift technique where he grabs him by the wrists, lifts up his hands so that he can't establish any leverage. At that point, the rusher can raise his pad level, Klein can't fit his hands, and he opens up the inside foot into the pocket. And then final play we're going to look at, I actually really like the start of this rep. He comes in with an aggressive inside hand punch. You can see he sticks this left hand right on the collarbone. That prevents the rusher from getting enough lateral movement to win the edge. And then with his offhand, he's countering the swipe, moving his feet to mirror him as he tries to attack the B gap. He's in good position once the rusher takes this wide step to his right shoulder, but he just overcommits with his hips, fully opens up to the outside, and he releases contact with the left hand. That allows the D tackle to counter with another swipe, cross his face, and get into the pocket. So that was my first exposure to Elijah Klein. Showed some nice things. I'm definitely a little bit biased, or at least more open-minded than usual, because I know Brandon Thorne really liked him. Still think he needs to get better with his hands to be a starter, but if he can tighten up that hand placement, there's definitely some traits to work with.